Hey, this is Michelle, and you're listening to Words with Michelle, the podcast, a show where I sit down and have conversations with influencers on a range of topics, anything from natural hair, employment, discrimination, food, relationships, and everything in between. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. If you want to send me an email, hit me up at michelle@wordsmichelle.com. Welcome to Words with Michelle, the podcast where I bring you thought-provoking conversations with inspiring changemakers. I'm your host, Michelle, and today I have a very special guest joining me. She's a powerhouse in the world of filmmaking, an award-winning director, writer, and producer who has been telling bold and necessary stories for decades. Alison Duke is here. Alison has made an incredible impact as a Black filmmaker in Canada, pushing boundaries and strengthening voices that need to be heard. We'll talk about what led her into the world of film, the challenges and triumphs she's faced along the way, and of course, her latest project, Bam Bam, The Sister Nancy Story, a highly anticipated documentary about the legendary reggae artist Sister Nancy. My inner geek loved every minute of this conversation. I've wanted to speak with Alison Duke for years now, so it was an absolute pleasure chatting about her journey and her love of film. So get ready, y'all. Find out more about Alison Duke. But before we start, I wanted to remind you that you can subscribe to the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so that you never miss an episode. So to start off this episode, I asked Alison to introduce herself. Thanks for being on the show, Alison. Thank you for being on the podcast today. And can you just share a bit about yourself, just a brief bio for the listeners?
Well, my name is Alison Duke. I was born and raised in Scarborough, Scarborough, Ontario. My family is from Guyana. Both my mom and my dad are Black Guyanese folk, and they immigrated to Canada in the 60s. And throughout my life, I was really interested, not so much the arts, but into science and I would say a little technology, but mostly science. And I was an athlete, you know, pretty much I wasn't a professional athlete, but I was an elite athlete up until, after university. But slowly in my life, I started to really focus on my point of view in terms of expressing myself through writing, through poetry, and would be featured in different magazines, community-based magazines on my writing. And I got a writing gig at Word magazine, which was a beautiful Black entertainment and culture magazine in Toronto. And had some work on at the Crossroads. It was a little bit of a zine that was created by Karen Augustine, and she allowed me to write in her zine, her quarterly zine that came out that really focused on Black women in all over the world. And that gave me the confidence to kind of just pursue the arts. But, getting into the film industry was really luck. I had a friend who was working in the industry, and he was, he had some friends that had bands and whatnot, and he always wanted to direct a music video. And I think he saw that, because I was an organized person, I had a weekly column in Word magazine that was I was those skills were transferable to what he was doing. So he asked me to help him produce a music video, and I just fell in love with the medium and began producing music videos and directing videos. Worked with a company called Rage Film House, which was like four of us, four Black people that came together like in the late 90s. And we just produced a bunch of music videos. And that was a gateway for a lot of people that come through. We had Director X, who was Little X back in the day. He directed what's the song? Northern Touch,
Oh, yeah.
through our company. And, Dawn Wilkinson was working with us, and she's now a big, television director. A lot of people, uh, Ricardo Diaz, he's a cinematographer. He's, award-winning cinematographer that's working out there. A lot of people that came through, and I came through that. And so that launched my career.
Is that I guess when you did Raising Cane, right? You produced
Yeah.
that. Was that long around that time that you did that as well?
Well, I left Rage Film House. I think after 4.5 years, a lot of us had enough because we were making the music videos on grants, like, grants from Much Music, and it was really hard to make a living, and I wanted to do something else. But I used what I was observing in the Black music scene in Canada to kind of think of making a documentary about Black musicians or hip hop artists in Toronto trying to make it. So the idea of Raising Cane came out of that. And I was following my brother's group, Citizen Kane, a rap group from Scarborough, sort of really underground, but phenomenal music. And I made a documentary about them and them trying to put out a record, their first album, I should say, when there was no Black radio. And they were really trying to make a go at it, And so that became my first documentary, feature documentary.
Nice. Oh my gosh. So you kind of answered, actually, I want to ask, you did say what inspired you, but was there any films that inspired you? Like, were there any things, any movies that you saw that you're like, okay, this is it. This is the way I want to get into it. Was there anything that really got to you?
Oh, all of the early um, Black cinema that was coming out of, America, the Spike Lees, the, Sheldon all of those folks, of that generation, I was inspired. Like any Black cinema, I was really from the States. I was really inspired by those folks. John Singleton and all those folks. But in Canada, there was a little bit of a rumbling of some work being created that I was really like amazed at. Um, the work that was coming out of Canada, and that one of the pieces was Home Feelings is a documentary about Jane and Finch.
Oh, okay.
And that film really, really, struck me as, you can make work about our community that's really true, that's truthful, um, and just gorgeous to watch, and also entertaining. And I really thought at that point when I watched that film that I wanted to make more documentaries.
Okay. I did see your documentary on Mr. Jane and Finch. I
Yes.
I liked it a lot. I thought it was amazing. It was a really good documentary.
Yeah, and that was our first film at Oya Media Group. And I was a producer and writer on that. The director was Gaddy Conte George, my business partner. And she came to me with that project after working on a series that I was producing, and she was one of the directors. And that series was the Kua Benjamin Legacy Project, which was 5 films that I produced about Black. I would say activists who are no longer here, but paved the way for what we see as Canada, in terms of being, equitable and having a space for Black people to come and immigrate to. And so we made a documentary series about that. And then she came to me later with this idea to make a film about Mr. Jane and Finch, Winston LaRose. And the series that we made before, it was all based on archives and recreating, like using memory to recreate, the past and talk about, all these amazing people that came before us. And then Winston LaRose, she met him afterwards because his people came up to her and said, "Hey, I have all this footage that you should have been in this, in this series." And so initially with Winston LaRose, we were going to make a film about his archives. He had over like 5,000 hours of footage of the Black community and like all these photographs and a phenomenal story. But then in the middle of it, he decided to run for public office. And he's like 80 years old. So
Yeah.
that became the story. And then the archives was used to kind of tell his history and show his background. But it's just it's a really good documentary.
Yeah, I liked it. I really enjoyed that. That was pretty
Yeah.
awesome. So, how has it been as a Black female filmmaker trying to get your films made? What's that been like? What are the challenges been like?
Well, at that point in time, when Gaddy and I came together as a company, I was ready to leave the industry. I was going to go um, and start teaching. I was already teaching, a course at, uh, well, what was called Ryerson, now TMU. Uh, and I was teaching a single cameras production course. And I went back to school to do my master's in production because I wanted to have not just I had the experience, but I just wanted to have like the academic, criteria to teach to become a professor. And that's what I was going to do because I was so fed up of the industry, all the no's you get, the underfunding. I was making a lot of community films where there was just really no money. But we were just trying to do our best to tell the stories as as they needed to be. And I was just so frustrated at the lack of respect for Black stories on the screen. And so in my mind, I said, well, maybe I could just go back to, I could go and teach, and maybe I can instill some of my knowledge on the next generation so that they can, you know, take a stab at it. And also I can get a weekly paycheck. But
Yeah.
but when Gaddy came to me, Mr. Jane and Finch took off. We won two Canadian Screen Awards, and one for Best Writing. And then we just started making more and more work. That was like 6 years ago.
Mm.
And I can't even tell you, the success that we've had coming together. It's just been phenomenal. And our slate is basically full. We have staff, we have a team, we have an office that we work out of, and we have great projects lined up. But you know, still, I have the drive to be in this industry as a filmmaker, but what I still see is our films are not funded in the way they should be. There's still that we might be getting opportunities,
Mm.
um, but they're not funded in the way that, non-Black films are funded. I could be working on a film, our internal projects, and then I see, the budget for that or the financing for that, and I can work with another company that's doing a similar type thing, and it's like hundreds of thousands of dollars more in
Wow.
financing that they're getting. We're just trying to chip away at this and just show that, we're competent filmmakers, we're reliable, um, we have a track record. We'll always deliver. We delivered on every single project that we've been a part of, and yeah, we're just trying to push through and show that we deserve that financing that we should. Yeah.
So why aren't you getting finance? What do you think is the reason why do they feel like no one's going to see the film? Or it's not as seen as important? Why isn't money more accessible?
Well, I feel that's a really good insight in terms of that question because one of the things is what they say about our films are that they're niche films. They're not films that everybody is going to see
Mhm.
or everybody wants to see. Um, but we know that that's not true. We know that when we make work, a lot of people wants to see it. Now, whether or not we have the marketing support to get it in everybody's faces, that's one thing. But we know that our films they might be local stories, but they're universal stories. At least that's the way we create our films, so that a lot of people can relate to it. A lot of people can see themselves. A lot of people can be inspired by those films. So, yes. So I don't believe that retort that we get from 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 the industry. I
Mhm.
think that's just an excuse. It just feels like an excuse to sideline people and projects.
Why did you want to tell the Sister Nancy story?
Yeah, Bomb Bomb, the Sister Nancy story was something that when it came to me, it was just like, it just felt magical when I met Sister Nancy. She is someone who's an icon in the reggae, in the dance hall, in the world music scene. People look up to her, and she's in her 60s and she's still doing her thing, an older artist and I'm still doing my thing. She's unapologetically a badass. And she is, she doesn't care. She is, I call her this anti-celebrity celebrity. She doesn't care how you see her. She just likes it raw. She's authentic. She's about authenticness. She's about originality. And I feel that that's who I am as an artist, or at least that's what I strive for. That's who I am as a person. And I've always been that way. And so when I looked at her, I saw like a beacon for myself, someone to say, yes, it's okay to be like this. It's okay to just want to be natural. It's okay to be, um, not afraid to show your true self. And it's okay just to be yourself, and it's okay to get older and still want to make work. Because I
Mm.
was grappling with that. I was grappling like, well, do I still want to do this? And then she told me, you can do it as don't let anybody, make you think that you can't do something. Just do it. If you want to do something, do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. And that's the powerful message that you see in this film. And she does it so well. So it makes you feel confident in doing it, like doing what you want to do as well. So that's why that's my personal thing, seeing an older artist, Black woman, still doing her thing. I'm still trying to do my thing, and I am doing my thing. I'm all for this.
First of all, you're not an older artist. That's number one. Like, I mean, like, so the thing is,
You don't know how old I am
I mean, like, the
or how
thing,
young I am.
yeah, but I think, okay, it's
Mhm.
even if you think that, I think because you were a filmmaker and because I love film,
Mhm.
I've always loved film. I feel like people get better as they age as well. Like film is not, I wouldn't say it's a young person's game in the sense that you only get better. If you look at people's work, they get better as they age. So I hear what you say, but to me, I didn't study film thoroughly. I did some courses and you just see a progression. So you're good, my friend. You're, I don't know, like, because you only get better. As good as you are now, you're only going to get better. That's how I see it. I don't see it because you're going to grow, you're going to meet different people, you're going to like experience different things, and they'll just have such an impact on you that it'll just, you know what I mean? And that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask, actually. Do you think that storytelling in film can bring about cultural change? And do you
Oh, yeah. I go through these phases where I think, sometimes, okay, especially documentary, like I'm like, it doesn't matter what we do, it's not going to change anything. People, society is the way it is, and that's the way that it's about, how, the structures are in societies and the institutions, how they're designed,
Mhm.
and how the power dynamic. So, when those change, that's when you're gonna have a real change. But I do think that film has a way of sparking discussion about topics, making people see things differently because it's told from a person that they may have never spoken to before or seen before, or so they can see the understanding, they have a better understanding of what that person's going through because they're seeing in from that person's mouth, which we don't get um, a lot of opportunities to do in the news or in other medias because people never really go to the source, really. Like, I mean, people don't usually go to the source unless they're doing deep research. So yes, documentaries can take you to these worlds, can take you um, to these people who are going through something. But then I'm also thinking about in terms of documentaries. I'm just talking about that, and I make all kinds of films, and I like all kinds of films. But I'm just talking specifically about documentaries.
Mhm.
Now with Bam Bam, what I tried to do is make a film that it was about inspiration. I wanted to have, be inspired, people be inspired by her, but also have a film that you can feel entertained, that it can transport you to somewhere in like dance hall culture and her life, and also that you can have fun. So, so there's different things I'm trying to do with film now, especially documentaries. Yeah, I don't want it just to be like a serious foray into, the subject matter. I want you to live fully that person's life. And Sister Nancy is like, what a life. She's got a big life. There's different, many different sides to her, and I wanted to make this film about that. And I am seriously looking at how to make documentaries more entertaining. Because sometimes you say, oh, a documentary? Oh, oh. People feel like they're going to be depressed. Like people say, oh, it's a documentary. It's going in the theater. It's going into the cinema. It's like, yeah, it's a fun ride. Don't go watch it. Obviously you're going to see, yeah, but it's gonna be fun. The music is pumping. Like it's a fun thing, right? So that's what I'm focused on as well.
I know lots of people like documentaries. I think a lot of things, a lot of people, I think they go to documentaries now just because you want to be entertained, or you want to learn and be entertained. I know documentaries are interesting. Last year I watched a whole bunch of things on Netflix just because you
Hmm.
have the time and you want to learn something, Like I mean, it's cool that it is in the theater as well because I mean you can watch it at home, but like first of all, I think with the Sister Nancy story, it's so interesting because that song is like it's embedded in everyone's heads. Like who hasn't heard that song? I mean, maybe I'm being really ignorant about that, but I feel like it's such a huge song that you've heard it somewhere. It's so sampled. Do you know what I mean? It's sampled everywhere. It's just
It's a song that almost someone in every country of the world has heard that song. That's how popular it is. It's a song that's been in every country. Everybody knows that song.
the fact that she's touring tells me that. Do you know what I mean? The fact that she can consistently work, consistently tour that song, that tells me that's the cultural impact, right? Because
Yep.
because that song was from 1982. It is now 2025, right? So it hits hard.
It's over 40 years and it's still traveling. She's still traveling. Now, now that people are hearing that the documentary is ready and it's out and it's also touring, we're getting calls from Brazil, Colombia, Australia. They want 5 cities. We were just in Amsterdam. It's going back to Amsterdam. We were just in London. It's going back to London. It's going to be in Italy. It's going to be, at the Pan-African Film Festival in a couple of weeks. It's going to be in San Diego Black Film Festival. It's going to be in the Washington something film festival. It's like
Yeah.
it's just going because all of those places, there's people who know the song and love Sister Nancy.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. I can't wait. So one question I really want to ask, and I love this question, um, with filmmaking because it's so rigorous. How do you balance creativity with self-care? Because it is stressful, right? Like, how do you balance what your work? Because it is work, but with self-care.
Yeah, I try to surround myself with people who are professional and are efficient, so my time isn't wasted, so I can have free time.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because if you gotta kind of structure your team in a way that everybody wants to work as efficiently as possible, so that you're able to do the work in a way that you have some free time. Because it's almost like when you're in production, it's like a 24/7 thing, and if you're constantly having to deal with issues or something going wrong, then that takes away from your time, especially as a producer and a director. So you gotta, one, number one, make sure you're working with people who are driven and as efficient as you try to be. Two, block out your time make sure when you look at your schedule every week that you have some time for yourself. Um, I try to do stretching in the morning. I try to, I used to walk every morning. I haven't done walking in a while, but I try to do some exercises at home. Um, and and it's a battle. It is a battle because I'm very, very busy.
Mhm.
But the more busy I become, the more I have to make sure that whoever I'm hiring to work with me, they're they're going to be efficient, self-sufficient. I don't know how to say it. They're going to be efficient. They're going to be able to work at the level I need them to work.
Okay, great.
I'm just really happy about this film, Sister Nancy, Bam Bam, the Sister Nancy story. I think it's my best work to date. It's a fun film. It allowed me to be really creative. It's a special documentary for me because, her scenes are all done in one take, and that's kind of unheard now. Of almost
Wow.
like her song when she did her song one take. Just because, now when you make documentaries, a lot of it is like constructed, and this was, just even though the storytelling is just beautiful. And that's people want to be able to tell the story in a certain way, so you have to construct some of it. But this one, it was purely, um, like a one take situation working with her, and I just love that. I love that. That was sort of like efficient, and her storyline just pops when you watch it. You can't wait to see her again in the movie, when you see her doing stuff in in the now. And I just love that. I just love that. And I want to keep on doing that. That's sort of like this one take documentary style. She's just amazing. She's incredible.
Yeah, that's cool.
She's a very smart person, like she's a very she's like a brainiac. She's gifted, basically. She's a gifted person. She can write lyrics, she can rhyme, just everything she does is like one time. It's like she doesn't rehearse. She doesn't even do sound checks. She just goes on stage and does her thing.
I mean, now
So
or then? Like even now? She's
yeah,
oh, okay. I guess you're right. She's gifted. She's really, really gifted then. Seriously. As Alison is a filmmaker, I asked her if she had a chance to see as many films as she likes.
I watch probably about maybe over 100 films a year,
Wow. In the theater or just in general?
just in general.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I watch a lot of, films and series, and just I'm watching a lot of stuff constantly. But
Wow.
yeah, but there's
I,
a lot of great work coming out now. Like cinema is just taking off in streaming and on TV and Netflix and Apple and Apple TV and everything.
how do you feel about that? Like, how do you feel about like movies like as like on Netflix and Apple as opposed to the theater? Is there a difference?
I think there is a difference. It all depends on, I feel like, the sound design. Like it depends on the sound setup you have in your house, and maybe the color and the vastness. Like some films, I want to see the whole, I want to see it big. I want to feel like I'm in the film. I want to hear the sound. Because there's special things that they do, like filmmakers do with sound design, like throwing sound at the back. And so it becomes a different experience and watching it with an audience. But sometimes I like to watch things by myself because I want to stop and start or whatever. I'm cooking, whatever. But yeah, I think I hope that cinemas maintain itself. I know it's a hard business after COVID, but I really hope that people go and see this film, Bam Bam, the Sister Nancy story, in the cinemas because of the sound design alone and the colors is just really something. So I'm
Imagine.
hoping for that.
As we approached the end of the conversation, I mentioned to Allison how much I looked forward to seeing the movie as I am a huge fan of that song, as well as music in general in film. Oh, it
Oh,
all
you're gonna love Bomb Bomb because what we do with music, the music editing is actually phenomenal.
that's
That's one of the things that, I was really happy about and really excited to kind of work through. It was scary because here we have this phenomenal song. We
Mm.
have her, a great catalog, of songs from her first album. And then we have to create mood with compositions with other music. And then we have other artists, who have sampled their music. So how do you make the whole thing cohesive and really rock and not get in each other's way? And it was just a huge challenge, but we had fun with that. The music and the sound is just really um, it's just magical in this film. And that's why I think it's getting a theatrical because people are really appreciating that.
Well, I can't wait to see it. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Got to see it in the theater or somewhere big, all right?
I will. I will. Don't worry. I'll take my friends. We're all gonna see it because, yeah. I mean, like, I saw like when I heard that this is coming, I'm like, yeah, I'm interested. That was it. That's all I had to read. That's all I had to read. I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna check this out. Yeah.
That's
Uh,
great.
well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I'm so excited. I can't wait to post this.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, Michelle. Nice meeting you and nice discussing film.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I'd love to hear from you. Send me a message or share your thoughts on social media on my Instagram page at wordswmichelle, on TikTok at Words with Michelle, and my YouTube channel at Words with Michelle. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a message on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so more listeners can find the show. Until next time, bye.